Hey, welcome back to another episode of A Warrior Spirit, where we let the inner warrior shine in their light. Today, I have Tiffany Featherstone, and she is a former realtor. She's an artist, and she does her own little video podcasting, sort of Tiff talk time with Tiff, Tiff time with talk. How to
Uh,
Tiff time, yeah. And I have followed her online for a while now, and was always fascinated by her cat, who thinks the carpet is lava and won't, walk on it, walks around it. But um, she's an amazing woman, and I'm appreciative of her time. And thank you for joining me today, Tiff.
you're welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
As we were talking a little bit before we started this, you grew up in Texas. What brought you to Arizona?
A man,
Of course. Uh, Is
a
he,
man.
you're still here, but he's not?
He's still here. He's from here. We got married, had two beautiful children. We're married for 15 years and then parted ways, and everything is very amicable. I'm still close with his family. He and I get along great. No issues there. So here I stay.
Here you stay. What got you into real estate?
Divorce. Truly, he was a general contractor, and it was a natural transition to kind of keep that tradition and stay in the industry. And I was looking for something that I could do that would allow me as a single mom to have a little bit of a flexible schedule. And I'm not a good employee. I work for myself. I'm much better working for myself, as I've always worked for myself. So real estate was kind of an easy transition, and I jumped into that and got my broker's license and did that for 13 years. And
How many realtors did you have at the time?
well, I didn't own a brokerage. I just had my license for the sake of it.
Okay.
I felt like it added some clout for doing business. And then I had a team for about 4 years until I retired. So
And recently you've transitioned into full-time artist.
yeah,
And what's your medium that you prefer?
I use acrylic, but I use a lot of mediums. I like pastels. I like using mica, but mostly acrylic is my that's been my jam.
So a lot of creative individuals had the creativity as a child. Growing up in Texas, would you say you were pretty creative?
Yeah, I was basically raised by two musicians, and there was no choice but to be creative in my family. So, my sisters, they're very, very creative in their own right. We had a very lively home. We were always singing. We were always doing anything, calligraphy, writing, reading. All of the arts were a big, big, big part of our lives. So I was just surrounded by it. I didn't have a choice.
Would you still sing if you were pushed?
Yeah, I love singing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I was in all district choirs and all state choirs from when I was a child, and I was playing the piano at age 3. I was playing the violin. You name it, I played it. My dad is a composer, and so classical guitar is my weakness. I love it. Not so good at it anymore. I would probably have to work at playing it, but I can pretty much figure something out. If you give me an instrument, I could probably figure it out and at least play hot cross buns within the first 10 minutes. So.
Chopsticks.
Yeah,
Um,
something
did you
easy.
ever get into writing?
No, not really. My sister is the writer, as far as music, and then my other sister is an actual writer and author, multi book author. Um, so I always say they got the talent, and I was just the hype man kind of. And then after my divorce, I decided I should start creating again, because I didn't really, you're raising kids, you get busy. It's hard to paint when you've got little ones running around. But once I got a divorce, I was like, I really want to dive back into that world. So that's kind of when I started doing it back in 2009.
And I've seen some of your stuff online. Actually, if I remember right, you just had a showing at a gallery?
I did a show, it's called Hidden in the Hills, and it's in Cave Creek, and it's once a year. It's one of the biggest artist studio tours. So you just crawl from one studio to another to another. And it was my first year doing that in Cave Creek, and it was really, really exciting. So you basically find a host that has a studio, and there's like 3 or 4 of you that display your art there, and people just come to see and buy. So that's the most recent show that I was in.
Nice.
Yeah.
So as a person who grew up in an artistic family and having this, bug, real estate isn't as kind of creative, but yet you made a success out of it. What would you say was part of that journey that kept you still engaged in that? I mean, do you just think it was always in your DNA, so going to stay there, or do you find that there was something else that kept driving you towards it?
Even when I wasn't creating, I was in my own way. I feel like you can't not create. So when I wasn't painting, I was making jewelry. And if I wasn't making jewelry, I was playing guitar. And if I wasn't playing guitar, I was sketching. There was always something, but I just hadn't focused on it as much when my kids were little. And while I was in real estate, as you know, it's a very stressful career.
Mm-hmm.
And the ultimate reason why I left it, because it started actually affecting my health. So I leaned on art more and more the deeper I got into my career as a realtor. It was my way of dealing with stress, really. It was a decompression in a way. And I used to say, I'm an artist because it makes me a better realtor. Then I don't lose it on my clients or whatever, or the other realtor. So it was like, you're welcome to you. I'm just going to paint so I don't murder people.
Yeah.
And then it just kept happening more and more. And then I just got to the point where I was like, oh, I have really serious health issues, and I'm passing out from stress, and my heart's having issues. So this is not good. So I just kept leaning on art, and it literally, I don't want to sound dramatic, but it saved my life, really.
So can we explore your health for a little bit?
Sure.
When did you start experiencing the symptoms, and how bad did it actually get?
Symptoms were probably from 2015. So I would say I ignored my symptoms for a while. And then when I started having, I would faint. That was the biggest thing. I would just stand up and go, just knock out. I'm that person that when I get stressed out, I get low blood pressure, high blood pressure. So my heart was just not working.
Mm-hmm.
And so I noticed it in 2015, started seeing my doctor about that. We got it kind of under control, and it wasn't the right doctor. So I switched, found a really good doctor in 2019. And that's when I started feeling like, okay, now I'm feeling better, but the stress isn't going away. So I just kept it up until last December. And then I was like, I just physically can't do this anymore. So
Did they come with a diagnosis?
no diagnosis. It was all stress. Yay, stress.
Yay.
So art was helping, but I just think about how if I hadn't been painting, how much worse off I would have been, because I wasn't finding a way to channel that negative toxic energy.
Mm-hmm.
It was all stress. And since I left real estate in, it was exactly a year ago, the end of 2022. And, it took me a good 4.5 months of just going like this,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm a zombie, just kind of decompressing from that
Mm-hmm.
burnout, essentially, before I really started feeling like, oh, okay, it was a wild time.
Yeah, people don't understand the importance that, I mean, stress is a silent killer for
Silent
sure.
killer. Yep.
I had a job when I was younger, and much like you, I had low white count, low blood count on I couldn't hardly get out of bed. I couldn't, I could
It's like you
go,
have bricks tied to your body and you're just
yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah, I could go do my job, but I couldn't really do much else. And I spent a year going to the doctors, and they ran all their tests,
Yep.
you know. And then finally the doctor said, it's stress.
Yeah.
And if you don't change your job, you'll die.
Yep.
And I changed my job, and like you, about 3 or 4 months later, I was back to normal.
Yep.
Like people just don't understand that, you know, it's kind of like carrying that little water bottle. It's doesn't seem heavy, but the longer you carry it, the tighter your arm gets, you know?
Yeah.
So,
True.
yeah, I think the importance that people need to put on decompressing or finding an outlet, or, not sloughing off the fact that stress may be the cause of your issue.
Exactly.
I think
It's
they should.
scary. It's scary to know how quickly it can just accumulate in your body. Stress
Mhm.
can really do a lot of damage.
And since you've changed careers and come out of that, you find that your energy's back and you're more bubbly and back to
Oh
kind of
yeah.
normal,
I'm just
whatever the
as
normal
I'm just as obnoxious as ever.
is.
You can't get rid of me yet,
No,
kids.
no, the cat needs you, the lava cat.
Right. Exactly.
Um, so if you were to kind of take a look at your life, what
Mhm.
would you say are some of the important highlights that have created this essence that is you?
Oh my gosh. I have no
Ah, okay,
idea.
we threw you through a curveball on it.
Yeah, that was a curveball. No, I honestly, I'm a firm believer, and I know this isn't always well received, but I believe that there's no mistakes and everything has led me to where I am today. I don't regret anything that I've been through, any relationships that I've had. Everything is on purpose and for a reason. And I walk away with a lesson and a betterment of, or an understanding of my life or direction or whatever it is at the time. So I don't know that I could pinpoint anything specific, but I do believe, even right now, this very moment, there's something I'm learning from this that's going to propel me in a specific direction. I don't know what that is yet, and I'm open to whatever that is. So I just kind of, I like a little bit of structure, but not too much. So I just kind of go with the flow and figure out, all right. And sometimes that's not the best thing, sometimes I got to knock myself back on the path, but I'm just here for the experience. And I think the most important thing that I have learned in this past year is returning to that childlike wonderment of the world and being wide-eyed and excited about things, because we
Mhm.
don't know as much as we think we know. And I try really hard to just explore the world. There's always something new that I can learn. And I like that. I want to learn. I want to experience new things. And even in the mundane moments, you can still find beauty in those moments. So that's just kind of how I live.
Do
That
you?
didn't really answer your question.
No,
Sorry.
it actually did, because I think part of growing up in the creative world that you grew up in, it allows for that freedom to explore, and it allows for that freedom to have that wonderment more often. Too many of us were ruled by parents who, you can't do this and you can't do that and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that and you'll never be this and you'll never be that. And it stifles that creative wonder that you were blessed to still carry with you. So I think it absolutely answers the question, because you are unique in the fact that you still find awe in beauty in everything. There's nothing
Yeah.
really mundane in what you view.
Yeah, I mean, I do have structure in my life, but even in those moments, for example, I run every morning. I have this, there's certain things that I do every single day. And on my runs, you get to where you kind of see your regulars. You're like, good morning, how's it going? But then there's times like this morning, there's one woman that I see, and we just had like a sweet little conversation. And I was like, I hope you have a really great day. And it just makes you feel happy inside. And I don't take those moments for granted because I know that life is very short. And so now that I can slow down, I'm not just stopping to smell the roses. I'm enjoying each one of the moments and trying really hard to appreciate the mundane because we are lucky to have mundane moments. There's people who would love to grow old and can't. And so I want to not take that for granted.
Did you experience any loss as a younger person who made that point very highlighted in you, or is it just kind of your philosophical way of viewing life?
I think it's the gospel of Tiffany Featherstone. It's just the way I roll, I don't know. Of course, I've lost people, but I think that, I've always kind of been that way. Even, I'm not too far off from you with the parenting, you can do this, you can't do that, and that kind of boomer mentality of just, this is the way we do things, and it needs to be done. I don't need to explain it to you, just do it. And I'm a firstborn child, so I have that independent mindset. I'm going to make decisions and I'm going to do things the way I want to do them, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
And that's just kind of how I am. And I learned very young to learn how to pivot and just be okay with things that aren't the way you expected them to be. And appreciating the moments as they come. I've always kind of been that way. So I don't know why.
Well, as a firstborn, and I mean, books have been written about us,
Yeah.
firstborns, and it's true. If you look at, the structure between the first, the second, the third, or whatever, I mean, there's a vast difference of philosophy in all of them, and I think that's great that you were able to carry that on throughout, your adulthood. Is there, like, some people are very religious, some people are very spiritual, some people have no affinity to anything. Is there something that you connect with other than your art?
Well, I was raised in a very strict religious home, and as I got older, I pulled very far away from that. And then I went into the kind of spiritual woo-woo world, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but I'm not necessarily into that. Honestly, nature is my church and music. Those are my two like go-tos. So when I feel artist block, when I'm like, I don't know what to paint, or if I'm stressed, if I'm happy, if I'm sad, nature is my end all be all. Like I can be in any mood and it will lift me or continue to inspire me. I'll see something and go, wow, those colors, I want to paint that, or a bird, whatever it is. So nature, and then music. If I'm in a place, it can shift my mood very quickly. So I would say those are my two religions, if I had to tell you the truth.
No, absolutely. And I've said, I mean, I'm a Reformed Catholic, so I totally understand what you're talking
Understood.
about. Yeah. But I've always said, religion is the worst thing that happened to God. And I can find more peace with God sitting on a beach watching waves come in than I can
Amen.
in the pews.
Totally.
Totally get that nature connection.
Yeah.
And it's, it's funny because I just spent 7 months up in Minnesota where I was born.
Love
Um,
Minnesota.
and I had forgotten, because I live in here in Arizona, I forgot that I love seasons. I love to watch the change.
Yeah.
And,
We don't
I
have
have probably 10,000 photos of a sunrise right now. Like, it's never
yeah.
old to watch it come up or go down, or the moon, it's like just inspired by nature as you are. And I also wrote my master's thesis on how music affects the brain. So I understand when you say you have this connection. Yeah, your parents were musicians and whatever, but there's something in the melody or something in the lyric or something in, you said classical guitar, you know,
It's
it's
the frequency. It's
the
the specific
frequency.
frequency. Yep.
Yeah. And my wife and I dance for no reason, just to dance
Love
in
that.
the kitchen. And,
That's
you know,
great.
we'll go out and dance in the rain or, you know, whatever. But,
So
um,
awesome. I love that.
sometimes she'll catch me because, I have an eclectic music life. Like my library goes from everything but rap and everything but opera, like anything in between.
Yeah.
And the Beatles song Get Back has the most pure guitar riff in it of any music that I've heard. And it just something about hearing that song when that guitar riff comes on, like just totally washes over and calms every part of my body.
Isn't that great?
It's like, it's an
Music
amazing,
is magic.
music is magic.
I heard a quote one time that said, music is the way emotions sound.
Oh, I like
I was
that.
like, oh my God, that is so perfect.
I love that.
Isn't that?
I love that.
So
And
it takes you to a specific feeling when you hear
yeah.
it.
And what's really great about music is that there is a finite amount of chords that can be played, but not but there's an infinite amount of way they can be arranged.
Arrange. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, you know, one of my regrets is that my mother tried to force me to play guitar when I was 6 and
Way too young.
sat me in a room with the sheet of paper saying play
Yeah.
that. And at 6 and 7, I wanted to be out with my friends. I didn't want to be locked in a room. And she really kind of robbed me of the joy of learning to play guitar, you know. So now I just play air guitar and I'm, you know, pretty good at air guitar.
And you rock it.
And I rock it. I did learn how to play the drums. I played drums through high school, so I made up for it. But
Hey,
it's
still in the band.
still in a band. Yeah. Even if I'm the conductor in my head, it's okay.
Okay.
Um, so if you were to impart wisdom to someone tuning in who wants to find their creative path or explore that, you know, one thing I love about you and watching your videos is you're perfectly okay being you on camera and don't care. And that makes you so enjoyable to engage with
Oh,
because you're being an authentic you. I would imagine that if we sat down and had a beer, you would be the same as the person you are on camera or, you know, whatever. So for someone who's trying to find their way or trying to let that inner child back out, what would you say to that person?
well, I think that, when I was in real estate, I had a lot of people talk to me about being on video and how they're so uncomfortable being in front of the camera and how do you do it and why are you so natural? And I'm like, because I don't feel like I'm talking to the world. I hone in on, sometimes I'll just think of one person that I'm talking to, or, you can practice in front of a mirror. But honestly, to me, there's 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 this trend on social media that we're seeing where they're saying to be authentic, but it's not really authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a problem for me because I really am authentic. I cuss, I say things, I leave the mistakes in. I'm okay making fun of myself. I'm not going to be perfect. Like there's times when I do videos where I literally just finished running. I've got my hat on. I look like total crap and I don't care because I'm like, I have a thought and it needs to come out now. I'm going to forget it. So I have to do this. So I guess my advice would be to, I want to say be authentic, but when I say that word, there's such a connotation associated with that of, get on social media and be authentic and say this and do that. But you still have to appeal to people. And I always think like, however you would talk to your best friend, that's probably your truest self.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can be that person in short snippets, do it. But most importantly, you can't be something you're not, or it comes through on
Mm-hmm.
video. People, we're smart. We know they're faking it. They're just doing that for likes, or they're doing it for their gram, or however you want to say it. So what's that saying? Be yourself. Everybody else is taken.
Yeah.
Just be yourself.
Yeah.
Screw up.
Be an
No,
original you, not a copy of
be the
somebody.
original you. And also there's, no one is thinking about you as much as you think they're thinking about you. So
Right.
if you screw up and you're like, that was terrible, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody, I mean, what's the worst that happens? You end up going viral. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, as a coach, and some of my posts are about coaching and my clients and all this. And some of my most viewed or engaged with posts are when it's raw and down and dirty. It's not,
Totally.
polished and whatever. And, people want to know that they can
You're
relate to
real.
you. Yeah, you're real. Because
Yeah.
if
I think
if
that,
you're too polished, it's
yeah, I think social media is pulling away from that really serious, polished Kardashian perfection type thing. And we want realness. We want real, if you're reviewing a product, we want to really know, is it good, or are you getting
Mhm.
paid to say it's good?
Right.
And I think people see through that now, so we're having to revamp, and I think that's why social media is taking off, because it is so authentic and people can be so raw and unfiltered, and then you're like, whoa, that's going to hurt the company because they said A, B, or C, or that's really going to propel that company because that was a genuine
Mm.
review.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what people want. So just be you and just talk like you would normally talk to your best friend, as if you're on the phone. Have a glass of wine first, whatever it takes, guys.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge
Oh.
you.
My wife is Portuguese and she grew up in Boston, and so F-bombs kind of flow like commas.
They're just
And
sentence enhancers.
they're just sentence enhancers. And coaches have coaches. And one of the coaches that I really was drawn to was this gal out of New Zealand who, on her Instagram posts and on her Facebook post, she was the first coach that I had ever heard be authentic and just use her sentence enhancers freely, not to be offensive or egregious about them, but it was just part
Who
of her,
she was.
yeah, part of who she was. And I'm like, damn, I really have to dig in and follow this person. And the more I followed her, the more I realized she wasn't doing it for effect. She was doing it because it's authentically who she was. And that
Yep.
was so refreshing in the coaching business. I'm like, I got to follow this girl.
Yeah.
And, I think there's
Perfectionism is overrated.
I think too many of us are, well, not even on camera, but just in our lives, trying to
Yep.
be too polished.
Totally.
We spend so much time worrying about what everybody else thinks of us that we miss out on actually just living our life. And that's one of the things I love about you. I have no doubt that does not apply to you.
I mean, I'm the friend that you have to like warn everybody about before I show up. They're like, okay,
Me
Tiffany's
too.
coming. Now listen, she's gonna cuss. She's gonna
Right.
say that.
Yeah. And
That's who I
I'm
am.
going to be the person who's going to say the bad joke at the wrong time. And, you know, you
I mean,
know,
what you see is what you get. And
yeah.
I'm old enough now that I don't care what you think of me. What you
Mhm.
think of me is none of my business.
Correct.
You know,
Yeah.
I know who I am, and I am very confident in who I am. And if you don't agree with that, that's on you, not my
Right.
problem.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine. He's always amazed. He's like, how did you get away with saying that? And I'm like, well, I got away with saying it, A, because I'm not doing it to be malicious.
Right.
I'm saying it with a loving,
Kitchen does
caring
have a lot.
heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also don't care what you think of me. So if you know, I've always said to my clients, look, you can be the ripest peach in the bunch and someone's going to hate peaches. It doesn't, if you spend your whole life trying to, you're going to have to be a chameleon for every group you're in. So just
Totally.
be you, and the right people will be attracted to it, and the
That's
right people
excellent
will
point.
be around, you know.
When you're authentic, you attract your people. You're going
Yes,
to weed out a lot of people too, but that's good. You don't want them.
right.
Bring
It
the
saves your
people.
energy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like attracts like.
I
Yeah.
tell my clients all the time, your job is to be a magnet. And a magnet has a positive and a negative side. So one side attracts and one side repels. It doesn't care which side of the magnet you are. It just be the magnet. The right will come, the right will go.
You know, another thing that I have learned over time, because I have censored myself and I have tried to be, more polished or however you want to say it. And what I've learned is that when you dilute who you truly are, it's boring.
Mm,
Nobody wants to listen to that. They see through it and they don't know why. Why is it inauthentic? Why is it off? What is it? It's because you have diluted yourself so that you appeal to everyone, and you
mhm.
cannot do that. You
Right.
can't appeal to everyone. So just be who you truly are, and the right people will stick around.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because especially business owners or entrepreneurs or artists, they're so busy trying to gain favor with everybody that they sound like everybody and then they don't attract anybody.
Boring. Yeah.
Boring. Yeah. Yeah. So
No,
I,
we
I I love that you're authentically you and
thank you.
unapologetically. What's on the horizon for Tiffany, don't call me Heather Featherstone. And we probably, since it's been up for 45 minutes, we probably should address why it says don't call me Heather on your on your video here.
Does it say that? Oh my
Yeah, it
gosh.
says don't call me Heather.
So I get called Heather quite a bit because my last name is Featherstone, and my sisters have the same problem. So when we were growing up, people would be like, "Oh, Heather," and I'm like, "It's actually Tiffany." Not even close. But I think because they hear Featherstone, it sticks in their head, and so I get called Heather all the time, and it's not funny. I don't think I'm just like, okay. There's some people that do it on purpose. And I'm like, okay, here we go. But so my phone I have set as "don't call me Heather." So I apologize if you're seeing that on your
Yeah, no, it'll be up there for. I figure we should probably address why,
That's amazing.
don't call me Heather on there.
About that. Sorry.
I have Native American in my blood. So is Featherstone derived from Native American?
No, actually, it's English. I get asked
English.
that quite a bit.
Yeah,
It's a very English name. So
English.
yeah,
You don't even sound British.
I can if you
You,
want me to.
you have you
No,
have good
actually,
teeth
my
and sound more.
family came from England, and when they came over, it was actually a town called Featherstone Haugh, Haugh.
Hmm.
And then when they came to America, they dropped the Haugh, and it's just Featherstone. So
Oh, well, see,
that's all I know.
I learned something new. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So what does 2024 have in store for Tiffany?
a lot. I'm actually today I have been doing some business planning and revamping what I'm doing. A lot of this, excuse me, a lot of the same and some new things. I'm really looking forward to doing more art festivals, I think, this year. That's kind of something new that with Hidden in the Hills, I thought, okay, this is a new way of putting myself out there in front of completely new people. So I may be doing more of those. And there's a couple of other surprises I have in store that all of your followers will be following me on Instagram to find out.
Absolutely. We'll post your socials.
Great, thank you.
Do you have a website that they can go and view your art in your gallery? We'll post
Yes,
that as well.
yes, tiffanyfeatherstone.com.
Okay. Well, we will make sure we put that in when the video pops out. I want people to be able to follow you and grab some of your art. It's really amazing and
Great.
beautiful. And I love watching your videos because your creative process is so interesting. you don't just paint with a brush, you use hardware, masking tape,
Yeah, so
board.
I don't use brushes. I pour my paint.
Yeah.
Um, I I use my fingers to manipulate the paint. I'll move the board for gravity to move the paint. I'll use popsicle sticks, a small child, whatever's nearby,
Whatever's
that's the way
nearby.
I roll. So, um, and it's a very tedious process. And the reason I do it that way is because, as I mentioned before, with all the stress I was in, I needed something that would laser beam focus my attention on something other than all the things in my head that were going on. So, because I have to be so meticulous with this process, the world just melted away. So it was a form of meditation for me. And I use wood. I don't paint on canvas, and I cover the wood with tape. And then I draw well, sometimes I draw it on the board, sometimes I draw it on the tape. It just depends on what I'm doing. And then I take an X-Acto knife and I cut away the areas that I want to paint. And so when I expose that area, then I pour the paint, manipulate the board, get it to dry, wait, then it's dried, then I peel the tape and move to the different areas. So it's almost like a paint by numbers in a way. And it's very tedious. So that could be changing a little too in 2024. Now that I've kind of moved out of the stress and into the exploring. So I'm still going to be pouring, but I'm going to be integrating some other methods into as well.
How much time would one of your typical paintings take you from laying the wood to drying it to finish?
It depends on the level of detail, but I would say on average, probably 40 to 50 hours. But I've done some that were well over 90 hours. So
Wow,
it takes a long time.
that's amazing.
Thank you.
Well, you are a true blessing, and I'm going to ask you the one question that I ask all my guests.
Okay.
What does a warrior spirit mean to Tiffany Featherstone?
Not the ability to survive, but the ability to thrive. Finding that way through, and it's not always easy, but a warrior will find a way through. And I certainly have multiple times in my life. So
You definitely are a warrior and someone that I've enjoyed watching your art and getting to know you a little better through this process. I appreciate it. And, thank you for your time tonight. And I look forward to joining you on your travels in 2024, even if it's virtual. So
my gosh, thank you so much. It's been so fun. I can't believe it's already over. Thank you for having me.
it's a quick hour, right?
It was quick.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun, Dave.
You have a blessed night.
Thank you.
Bye.